stories beyond imagination.
Zero Signet.
One leader, one warning, one chance to change history.
It was a warm Florida evening, the kind of night when the ocean smelled faintly of salt and ambition. Donald J. Trump had just finished, addressing a crowd of loyal supporters at Mar-a-Lago, basking in the applause that rolled like thunder across the manicured lawns. As the crowd dispersed, Trump lingered, hands gesturing in the air as if speaking still to himself. He loved moments like these, when he could imagine the whole world watching, every eye on him, every camera lens tilted upward. Suddenly, a brilliant flash split the sky above the Atlantic. At first, Trump thought it was fireworks. He had always enjoyed putting on the biggest, the best shows, but this light was different. It pulsed with an otherworldly rhythm, growing brighter, descending lower, until the air itself vibrated. Within minutes, a glowing disc-shaped craft hovered silently above the waves, gleaming like molten silver. Trump squinted, his hand shielding his face. "Tremendous," he muttered, almost to himself. "Even the aliens want to see Trump. Nobody attracts attention like me." The craft landed softly on the beach, its glow dimming to reveal a seamless hull without windows or doors. Then, with a whisper like shifting sand, a section of the metal opened. Out stepped beings unlike anything in Trump's experience, tall, slender figures, their skin glistening with a faint luminescence. Their eyes were vast pools of light, shifting like liquid galaxies. The Secret Service agents nearby froze, hands hovering near weapons, but strangely, none of them could move forward, as though an invisible barrier held them back. Trump, on the other hand, walked closer, his curiosity outweighing fear. "Well, well," he said, his voice carrying its usual blend of arrogance and charm. "I've always said Earth has the best people. But I must admit, you're looking pretty good yourselves. From another planet, huh? Welcome to America, the greatest country in the universe." The tallest alien inclined its head, a gesture that seemed regal and oddly familiar, like the bow of a king to another ruler. A voice entered Trump's mind, not spoken aloud, but resonant and clear. "Donald John Trump, we have come not to flatter but to warn. Your nation stands at a crossroads, and the choices you make will echo far beyond Earth." Trump chuckled, straightening his red tie. "You're talking to the right guy. Nobody knows crossroads better than me. Built highways, built fortunes, built movements. I've done it all. You want to talk destiny? Believe me, I've written the book on it." The alien's gaze deepened, as though piercing the surface of his bravado. "We have seen the tides of your history. We know what storms are coming. We bring prophecies, not threats. You will listen." Trump folded his arms, smirking. He had dealt with world leaders, generals, businessmen, and journalists who tried to intimidate him. He was used to being the center of the deal. "All right," he said. "You've got my attention. Let's hear it. But remember, if you're trying to scare me, nobody scares Trump. People try all the time. Doesn't work." The alien leader extended one long, luminous hand. Images flooded Trump's mind. Chaos at the southern border. Thousands upon thousands of people surging through gates, overwhelming cities. "First prophecy," the voice intoned. "A flood of humanity will test your borders, straining the foundations of your policies. This wave will not be stopped by walls or speeches. It will reshape your politics." Trump staggered slightly as the vision ended, blinking rapidly. "Border crisis? I've been saying it all along. I'm the only one who can fix it. You're just confirming I'm right. Everybody knows it." The aliens exchanged a silent glance, and another vision swept into Trump's mind. He saw furious crowds storming buildings of power, flags waving, fists pounding, voices shouting in rage. The air filled with smoke and broken glass. "Second prophecy," the alien whispered. "Your own people will turn against themselves. They will question your leadership, question their own democracy. You will stand at the center of the storm, and the world will judge." Trump's expression shifted just for a moment into something unreadable. Then he laughed, shaking his head. "Fake news loves this kind of thing. But let me tell you, if people are storming buildings, it's because they love me. They're fighting for me." The world has never seen loyalty like this. Not even kings had loyalty like I do. The alien leader's eyes glowed brighter, as though trying to cut through Trump's self-assured exterior. Third prophecy, the voice pressed on. A sickness will spread across your land. Invisible, merciless, it will choke cities and silence markets. Your words will not stop it. Your denials will not protect you. Only humility and truth will ease its grip. Trump winced as he saw visions of hospitals overflowing, masks covering faces and leaders fumbling for answers. A sickness? He scoffed, though unease edged his tone. We've had sickness before. America beats everything. We're the strongest. And besides, I handled things perfectly. Everybody said so. Did a phenomenal job. But inside, he remembered the criticism. The nightly death tolls on television, the protests. The alien's prophecy hit too close to the bone. By now, Trump felt a strange mix of fascination and defiance. He prided himself on being the man who couldn't be rattled, but the accuracy of these visions gnawed at him. Still, he wasn't about to let anyone, alien or otherwise, see weakness. All right, you've shown me doom and gloom, he said, spreading his hands theatrically. You've shown me riots, sickness, borders breaking down. But you know what I see? I see opportunity. Nobody handles crises better than Trump. Maybe that's why you came to me. Because deep down, even aliens know, I'm the only one who can make America great again. The aliens did not respond with laughter or applause. Instead, they stared at him in solemn silence, their glowing eyes reflecting not admiration but warning. The leader raised its hand again, and this time Trump saw not just America, but the globe, cities burning, seas rising, skies choked with smoke. The images were overwhelming, vast, apocalyptic. Fourth prophecy, the voice resonated. Humanity stands at the edge of collapse. Division among nations, greed among leaders, denial of truth, all will feed the storm. If you cannot change, your legacy will be ashes. Trump's jaw tightened. For once, he didn't interrupt. The vision was too vast, too undeniable. He thought of his legacy often, his buildings, his name in gold letters, his rallies, his slogans. To imagine it all swallowed by fire, and ruin was a thought he couldn't easily dismiss. He clenched his fists. If you think you can scare me out of fighting, you're wrong. I don't quit. I never quit. The aliens stepped closer, their presence radiating both calm and unbearable weight. The leader's voice was softer now, almost compassionate. Fifth prophecy. You may rise again to power, but if your heart remains unchanged, it will end in isolation. Greatness built only for the self collapses. Greatness built for others endures. You must choose which path you walk. Trump swallowed hard, feeling the words settle heavier than the others. Power, I know. Winning, I know, but serving others? He let out a dry chuckle. You don't win elections by being humble. You win by being strong, by being the best. The alien's luminous eyes held his. Strength is not the same as service. Remember this. For the first time in many years, Donald J. Trump was speechless. He stood on the Florida beach, the ocean whispering behind him, the alien craft humming softly like a heartbeat. The visions replayed in his mind. Border chaos, riots, sickness, collapse, the chance of redemption. He felt as though he were standing at a precipice, staring into a future too large to grasp. The aliens turned, their forms dissolving into radiant light as they re-entered the ship. Before the door closed, the leader's voice rang once more in his thoughts. History remembers not the boast, but the sacrifice. What will it remember of you, Donald Trump? The ship lifted, a beam of silver fire ascending into the night sky, leaving Trump alone on the sand. He stood there long after the glow faded, clutching his tie, staring upward, wondering for the first time if the universe had just handed him the biggest deal of his life. The days after the encounter were unlike anything Trump had ever experienced. He could not shake the visions that haunted him at night, the shouting crowds, the disease sweeping through hospitals, the crumbling towers of power. He tried, of course, to bury them beneath bravado. At rallies, he spoke louder than before, declaring that America was strong, that he had been treated unfairly, that enemies both foreign and domestic were conspiring against him. Yet when he stood before the mirror, alone in the gilded silence of Mar-a-Lago, he sometimes caught a flicker of doubt in his own eyes. Could it be that the aliens had shown him truths, not exaggerations? Could it be that history was already unfolding exactly as they had warned? His pride rebelled against the thought. Trump had always believed he shaped destiny, not the other way around. But now destiny seemed to be whispering over his shoulder, asking questions he did not know how to answer. The media, of course, knew nothing of the encounter, but they reported relentlessly on the very events the aliens had foretold. Border crises filled headlines. Images of overwhelmed shelters and desperate families circulated daily. Commentators bickered, politicians pointed fingers, and Trump watched it all unfold with a strange mixture of satisfaction and unease. They said it would happen, he thought. They said it would test me. In public, he declared the crisis proof of his correctness, a vindication of his warnings. Yet in private, he wondered whether he was a pawn in something larger. He had built his career on controlling the narrative, bending reality through sheer force of personality. But now, reality seemed to be racing ahead, indifferent to his spin. It was as though the aliens had handed him a script, and America was reading its lines perfectly. One night, unable to sleep, Trump wandered the empty halls of his estate. The marble floors echoed beneath his footsteps, each sound magnified by loneliness. He remembered the aliens' final question. What will history remember of you? It gnawed at him. Trump thought of the monuments bearing his name, the towers that glittered in New York, the golf courses spread across continents. He thought of the rallies, the red hats, the chants of USA, USA. Surely that was legacy enough. And yet, when he imagined centuries into the future, he could not see those things standing. He saw dust, ruins, forgotten slogans. He saw his name fading like old paint. Legacy, he realized with discomfort, was not just about buildings and victories. Legacy was about what endured when memory failed. The aliens had suggested service. But service was a word that clashed with every instinct. He had honed across decades of branding himself as the best, the greatest, the winner. As months passed, the second prophecy revealed itself with even greater clarity. The storming of the Capitol replayed endlessly on television screens. Documentaries dissected every second, and courts demanded answers. Trump bristled at the scrutiny, dismissing it as persecution, but inwardly, the alien vision returned again and again. Angry crowds, broken glass, chaos. It had not been a dream. It had been a preview. His own supporters had carried banners with his name while smashing through barricades. To him, it was loyalty. To the world, it was insurrection. The aliens had been right. History was judging him, not only for his achievements, but for the fury unleashed in his name. Sometimes when he closed his eyes, he could still hear the alien leader's voice. Strength is not the same as service. The words irritated him because they lingered with the weight of truth. The third prophecy, the sickness, was one he could not deny. America had been scarred. Businesses had shuttered, families had mourned, and even his staunchest allies admitted mistakes had been made. Trump defended his record tirelessly, repeating that he had done more than anyone else could have done, that his decisions had saved millions. But he could not silence the nightly images of refrigerated trucks holding bodies, of exhausted nurses breaking down on camera. The alien had warned that denials would not protect him, and those words replayed like a relentless echo. He found himself wondering, what if he had taken it more seriously from the start? Would history remember him differently? These questions gnawed at him in ways he would never confess aloud. Publicly, he remained the defiant fighter. Privately, he felt a shadow growing. The fourth prophecy unsettled him most deeply. In speeches, he spoke of American greatness, of jobs returning, of strength unmatched. But when he turned on the news, he saw images of wildfires consuming forests, hurricanes tearing cities apart, floods displacing families. Abroad, wars simmered, alliances fractured, markets wavered. The aliens had spoken of humanity at the edge of collapse, and Trump now saw glimpses of it in every headline. It was not merely about his presidency. It was about the fate of the species. For the first time, he considered the possibility that the aliens had not come for him, alone but for humanity through him. The thought was intoxicating and terrifying. Why him? Why choose a man known more for bravado than humility? Perhaps because he stood at the crossroads, as they had said. Or perhaps, he mused darkly, because he was destined to fail, a warning to others. Trump tried to bury these thoughts in his rallies. The crowd still adored him. The sea of red hats still lifted him, chanting his name, echoing his slogans. He fed on their energy, their loyalty, their need for a champion. But now, behind the roar, he sometimes heard silence, the silence of the alien's unblinking gaze, the silence of a universe waiting for an answer. His words felt larger than before, heavy with consequences. When he promised to fight for America's future, he wondered whether he was also fighting against the destiny the aliens had shown. Could he rewrite the script? Could he bend even prophecy to his will? Trump had always believed in bending rules, in breaking molds. If anyone could outmaneuver fate, surely it was him. Yet doubt, once planted, grew like a weed. He began searching for signs of the craft again. Some nights he walked the beach, scanning the skies, waiting for the silver glow. He even confided to a trusted aide that he believed he had been visited. The aide laughed nervously, assuming it was a metaphor for destiny, not a literal encounter. Trump let the misunderstanding stand. He could not risk ridicule, yet he longed for the aliens to return, to clarify, to tell him if he was winning or losing in this cosmic game. He missed their certainty, their authority. For a man who prided himself on commanding the stage, it was a strange thing to crave instruction. But the universe had whispered to him, and silence now felt unbearable. The fifth prophecy lingered like a specter, that he might rise again, but risk ending in isolation. It haunted his every calculation. He imagined returning to power, standing once more in the Oval Office, commanding the world's attention. But he also imagined the aliens' warning, that if he did not change, history would reduce him to ashes, forgotten, reviled. At times, he bristled against the idea. Trump was certain of his greatness, and yet the aliens had not been wrong before. The possibility of isolation gnawed at him in a way even political defeat never had. Legacy was more fragile than he had believed. His story was not just about winning elections. It was about what would remain when he was gone. One evening, as he gazed at the horizon, Trump imagined negotiating with the aliens as though they were businessmen. You want humility? Fine. What's in it for me? You want service? Show me the returns. It was his instinct to see everything as a deal, a transaction. Yet even in his imagination, the aliens never responded with contracts or terms. They responded only with silence and their piercing eyes. It frustrated him. Deals were his world. But this was something larger, something that could not be bought, branded or spun. For perhaps the first time in his life, Trump realized he was facing a challenge that could not be negotiated, only answered. As years turned, the world's challenges deepened. America wrestled with division, economies strained, storms worsened. Trump continued to speak, to fight, to inspire. But the alien question never left him. He began to toy with the idea, in rare private moments, of what true service might look like. Could he, Donald J. Trump, embody something beyond self-promotion? Could he dedicate himself not just to victory, but to sacrifice? The thought was foreign, uncomfortable, even humiliating. And yet he could not deny the allure. History, after all, remembered Lincoln not for wealth, but for unity. Washington not for towers, but for surrendering power. Perhaps the aliens were offering him a chance to join those ranks, if only he could pay the price. The opportunity arrived when crises converged. Economic shocks rattled markets. Storms devastated coasts, and foreign powers tested America's resolve. Trump stood once again at the center of the debate, his every word amplified. And in that moment, he remembered the alien's prophecy. Strength is not the same as service. He faced a choice: rally his base with defiance or rise above, offering not just promises but genuine leadership. The decision weighed heavier than any deal he had ever made. For the first time, he hesitated before the microphone. The crowd chanted his name, waiting for slogans. Instead, he spoke of unity, of sacrifice, of serving the people beyond politics. The words felt strange, almost foreign, but they carried a weight that silence had pressed on him for years. The reaction was mixed. Some cheered, others jeered, but Trump felt something shift within himself. For once, he had not spoken purely for applause. He had spoken because the universe itself seemed to demand it. That night, he dreamed again of the aliens. They stood in the same formation, their leader radiant, their eyes steady. "You have chosen," the voice said. "The path remains uncertain, but the choice was yours. History will remember." Trump awoke with sweat on his brow, but also a strange calm. Perhaps he thought he had finally made a deal that mattered, not with voters, not with banks, not with networks, but with time itself. In the months that followed, Trump continued to wrestle with himself. Old habits tugged at him, boasts, grievances, feuds, but the memory of the aliens kept him tethered to something larger. He began to speak less of enemies and more of challenges, less of victories and more of responsibilities. It was not always consistent. His nature remained fiery, combative, but the change was noticeable. Allies and opponents alike remarked on the shift. Some dismissed it as strategy, others as age. Only Trump knew the truth, that it was born of visions on a Florida beach, of words from beyond the stars. And so, the legacy of Donald J. Trump entered its final chapter, written not only by politics but by prophecy. The aliens never returned, at least not in any visible way. Yet their presence lingered in his choices, in his speeches, in the quiet moments when he looked up at the night sky. He often wondered if they were still watching, still judging. Perhaps they were. Perhaps they had moved on to another world, another leader. But their question remained etched in his mind. What will history remember of you? Whether he would be remembered as a builder, a divider, a savior, or a cautionary tale, only time would tell. But one thing was certain. He had been given a vision of destiny, and he would never again see himself merely as a man. He was, for better or worse, a figure inscribed not just in American history, but in the memory of the stars.